Overview of the history of the United States. Here is a more detailed overview of the history of the United States. Pre-colonial era, before 1607, before the arrival of European explorers, many Native American tribes inhabited what is now the United States. These tribes had their own languages, cultures, and political systems, and they had been living on the land for thousands of years. Some of the major tribes included the Cherokee, Navajo, Sioux, and Iroquois. European exploration and colonization, 1607–1775. In 1607, the English established the first permanent English settlement in North America at Jamestown, Virginia. Over the next century, European nations such as Spain, France, and the Netherlands established colonies in the Americas as well. The colonies were founded for various reasons, including religious freedom, economic opportunity, and territorial expansion. American Revolution, 1775–1783. Tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain grew throughout the 1760s and 1770s, as the colonists began to demand more autonomy and rights. In 1776, the colonies declared their independence from Great Britain, and the American Revolution began. The war lasted for several years, with major battles including the Battle of Saratoga and the Battle of Yorktown. The American colonists were ultimately victorious, and in 1783, Great Britain recognized the United States as an independent nation. Early nationhood, 1783–1860. After gaining independence, the United States faced many challenges as it tried to establish itself as a new nation. The Constitution was written and ratified in 1787, creating a federal system of government with a strong central government and a Bill of Rights that protected individual rights. In the early 1800s, the United States began to expand westward, acquiring new territories and engaging in conflicts with Native American tribes. The country also experienced significant economic growth, with the Industrial Revolution leading to the rise of factories and the growth of cities. Civil War, 1861–1865. Tensions between the North and the South over issues such as slavery and states' rights led to the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. The war was fought between the Union, the Northern states, and the Confederacy, the Southern states, and it was one of the deadliest conflicts in American history. After several years of fighting, the Union emerged victorious, and slavery was abolished with the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Reconstruction Era, 1865–1877. After the Civil War, the country faced the challenge of rebuilding and integrating the former Confederate states back into the Union. The Reconstruction Era saw significant changes in American society, including the granting of citizenship and voting rights to African Americans, the establishment of public schools, and the passage of laws aimed at protecting civil rights. Industrialization and Progressive Era, 1877–1917. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the United States underwent significant industrialization, with factories and railroads transforming the economy. However, this period also saw growing inequality and social unrest, leading to the rise of the progressive movement. Progressive reformers sought to address issues such as political corruption, unsafe working conditions, and child labor. The movement led to the passage of many important laws, including the Pure Food and Drug Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act, and the creation of the National Park Service. World War I, 1914–1918. The United States initially remained neutral when World War I broke out in Europe in 1914, but it eventually entered the war in 1917 on the side of the Allies, France, Great Britain, and Russia. The U.S. played a major role in the Allied victory, and the Treaty of Versailles that ended the war significantly reshaped the period after World War I. Roaring Twenties and Great Depression, 1919–1939. The period after World War I saw significant social and cultural changes in the United States, with the Roaring Twenties characterized by jazz music, flapper fashion, and economic prosperity. However, the stock market crash of 1929 led to the Great Depression, a period of widespread economic hardship that lasted for several years. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs aimed to stimulate the economy and provide relief to the unemployed and those in need. World War II, 1939–1945. After initially remaining neutral when World War II broke out in Europe, the United States entered the war in 1941 after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. The U.S. played a major role in the Allied victory, and its use of atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki helped bring about Japan's surrender. The end of the war saw the United States emerge as a major world power. Civil rights movement and Cold War, 1945–1989. The post-World War II era was marked by the Cold War, a tense period of political and military rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States also experienced significant social and cultural changes during this period, with the civil rights movement seeking to end segregation and discrimination against African Americans. Major events included the Brown versus Board of Education Supreme Court decision, the Montgomery bus boycott, and the March on Washington. Vietnam War and Counterculture, 1955–1975. The Vietnam War, which began in the 1950s and lasted until the mid-1970s, was a controversial conflict that saw the United States become involved in a complex and divisive conflict in Southeast Asia. The war led to widespread protests and social unrest, particularly among young people who rejected traditional values and embraced the counterculture. The era was characterized by the rise of rock music, the hippie movement, and the sexual revolution. Late 20th century and early 21st century, 1980s–2023. The late 20th century saw the United States continue to play a major role in international affairs, with events such as the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Gulf War, and the September 11 attacks shaping the country's foreign policy. The U.S. also experienced significant social and cultural changes, with the rise of the Internet and the growth of social media transforming communication and society. Recent years have seen increasing political polarization, social unrest, and a renewed focus on issues such as race relations, climate change, and economic inequality.